Lead with belief, not persuasion. One of the biggest misconceptions about influence is that it comes from having the best argument, the most data, or the strongest logic. We think if we can just explain our position clearly enough, people will eventually agree with us. But influence is not about pushing harder, it's about standing firmer. Take a moment to think about the people who inspire you the most. Maybe it's a historical figure, a leader in your industry, or even someone in your personal life. What is it about them that makes you respect them? It's probably not their ability to argue better than others. It's their conviction, their belief in what they do, how they act, and the values they uphold. The problem with trying to convince others is that it puts you in a defensive position. It implies that your ideas are not strong enough to stand on their own, so you need to sell them. But when you operate from a place of deep belief, you don't need to convince anyone. Instead, you communicate with certainty and people naturally gravitate toward that. For example, imagine two entrepreneurs pitching their business ideas. One spends the entire pitch defending their concept, anticipating objections, and trying to make people believe in it. The other speaks with unshakable confidence, sharing why they believe in what they do, the impact they want to create, and why they are committed no matter what. Who do you think will gain more support? More often than not, people follow the second person, not because they were persuaded, but because they were inspired. Humans are emotional creatures. We connect with passion, authenticity, and unwavering belief. This is why great leaders throughout history have never needed to convince people. They led with vision and allowed people to come to their own conclusions. They focused on those who resonated with their message, rather than trying to convert skeptics. Think of someone like Steve Jobs. He didn't spend time arguing with people about why Apple was great. He believed in what he was building and presented his vision so clearly that those who shared his passion naturally followed. He didn't need to force them. They saw his conviction and wanted to be a part of it. When you lead with belief instead of persuasion, you create a shift in how people respond to you. Rather than feeling pressured or manipulated, they feel drawn to your energy. They see the certainty in your actions, and it makes them more likely to trust and follow. So instead of trying to convince others that your ideas are right, ask yourself, do I believe in this enough to act without approval? Do I stand firm in my values, regardless of whether others agree? When you do, people will follow not because you made them, but because they want to. Find the right people, don't chase the wrong ons. One of the most exhausting things we do is try to get the wrong people to believe in us. We spend too much time and energy trying to persuade those who are simply not interested, not aligned, or out-resistant. The reality is, not everyone is meant to be on your journey, and that's okay. I think about it. Have you ever tried to change someone's mind who was completely set against you? No matter how logical or passionate your argument was, they weren't open to hearing it. Maybe they even got more resistant the more you tried. That's because influence doesn't work by force, it works by resonance. Instead of wasting time convincing those who don't care, shift your focus to those who are already looking for what you have to offer. These are the people who are open, receptive, and ready to listen. When you speak to them, you don't have to work so hard. They hear your message and immediately connect with it. Let's take a business example. Imagine two salespeople. One spends hours trying to convince skeptical customers who have no interest in their product. The other spends their time engaging with customers who are already curious and looking for a solution. Who do you think will have more success? The second one, because they are focusing on the right audience. This applies to leadership, relationships, and any form of influence. The more you chase people who are not aligned with your vision, the more you drain yourself. It can lead to frustration, self-doubt, and burnout. But when you focus on finding and speaking to the right people, everything becomes easier. Instead of resistance, you experience flow. Instead of constant pushback, you build momentum. A great example of this principle is the way movements grow. Every major social, cultural, or business movement started with a small group of people who truly believed in it. They didn't start by trying to convince the masses. They started with those who already resonated with their message. And as that small group grew, it attracted more like-minded people. Over time, that collective energy created massive change. This is why it's so important to focus on building alignment rather than forcing agreement. If you find yourself constantly having to explain or justify your vision to people who don't see it, pause and ask yourself, am I speaking to the right audience? Am I spending my energy on those who truly care? Sometimes the best thing you can do is let go of the wrong people so you can create space for the right ones. When you do, you'll notice something incredible. Things start to fall into place effortlessly. The right opportunities appear. The right conversations happen. And the right people come into your life. not because you forced them, but because they were already searching for what you had to offer. At the end of the day, influence is not about convincing the unwilling. It's about finding those who are already ready to hear your message. When you shift your focus from trying to change minds to simply sharing your truth with the right people, everything changes. You no longer have to fight for approval, you simply live in alignment and the right people will naturally follow.